It's Wednesday, May 12th, and the time for your Barbados Today morning news update. Former employees of the Accra Beach Hotel and the Spa and the Hilton Barbados Resort are again protesting broken promises from their former employers regarding the payment of severance. Our Kareem Smith has that report.
A spokesperson for the Accra workers revealed the two groups would be joining forces in front of the Hilton's Needham's Point St. Michael property from as early as Wednesday. The Accra workers, who were laid off since last April, near the start of the ongoing pandemic, received up to 70% of their outstanding monies after days of wildcat protests at the end of the year. They are, however, contending that a promise from the Minister of Tourism and International Transport, Senator Lisa Cummins, to facilitate payment of the remaining 30%, as well as payment in lieu of notice by March 30th this year, is yet to be fulfilled. The workers also say officials from the National Insurance Scheme have advised many of them that they are owed at least an additional year's worth of severance. According to the spokesperson, while a few of them have been fortunate to find jobs, many of their former colleagues were not so lucky and remain among the ranks of the unemployed. In relation to the Hilton, Barbados Today understands that many of the former workers received their full severance, while a number of others, for some unexplained reason, are seemingly waiting in vain. Reports also suggest that since December, some former workers who were not initially advised of their right to severance have now come forward but are yet to receive a cent. Kareem Smith for Barbados Today.
The Barbados Secondary Teachers Union and the Barbados Union of Teachers want more stringent measures implemented in schools amid the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. It comes on the heels of another case of the virus at one of the island's secondary schools. Last week, a student at the Princess Margaret Secondary School tested positive for COVID, and now a student at the Ellerslie Secondary School has had a positive result. BSTU President Mary Redmond says the development is a cause for concern.
Teachers are naturally very concerned about the occurrence of a second case of COVID infection in the schools, essentially in 1 week, since the student was at school last week and would have been positive then. Our concerns revolve around the question as to whether this was an infection as part of a family cluster, or whether the student was a single infection and not a case resulting from a known contact. The implications of the latter especially are obvious in a school setting. We also have concerns as to whether siblings exist in that household and are in attendance at other schools.
Redmond also expressed concerns with some of the protocols.
Teachers are naturally very concerned about the occurrence of a second case of COVID infection in the schools, essentially in 1 week, since the student was at school last week and would have been positive then. Our concerns revolve around the question as to whether this was an infection as part of a family cluster, or whether the student was a single infection and not a case resulting from a known contact. The implications of the latter especially are obvious in a school setting. We also have concerns as to whether siblings exist in that household and are in attendance at other schools.
Equally concerned is BUT President Pedro Shepherd.
So it is something that is inevitable, and I think that the real concern now has to be managing the process. I don't think that we can panic at this stage as we did in the earlier stages. I don't think there's any need for us to panic. I think once we establish that there are known cases in any institution, whether it is a school, whether it is a business, that we seek to isolate, seek to quarantine, seek to manage the situation. The unions were asking for a September date, and we continue to maintain that September was indeed the better time to restart schools, because we were of the view that we needed to manage the community spread, we needed to manage the clusters, we needed to ensure that persons, teachers, and other adults get both jabs so that they would have some level of immunity.
More needs to be done to address the links between alcohol abuse among young people, domestic abuse, and persons with non-communicable diseases. Opposition leader Bishop Joseph Atherley made the comment in his contribution to the debate on the new liquor license bill. Bishop Atherley welcomed the changes contained in the new bill, but expressed concern about the connections seen between alcohol use and the high levels of NCDs on the island.
With a country that has the NCD profile, non-communicable disease profile, that Barbados now has, and when the opinion, the voices of medical professionals suggest that with this kind of a profile, the incidence of alcohol use becomes a dynamic that creates the potential for an even worse situation, even worse reality among our people with respect to heart attack and stroke and some of the other ills that plague our national community, then when one pauses to think of the reality that we're the fourth highest consumer of alcohol in Latin America, now with our NCD profile, then that becomes an issue for serious consideration.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
To news from the region, there is a need for harmonized health and travel protocols throughout the Caribbean if the region's tourism industry is to thrive post-COVID-19. That's the view of Grenada's Prime Minister Dr. Keith Mitchell and his Dominica counterpart Roosevelt Skerrit. The two leaders believe travelers could be deterred from vacationing in the region if protocols differ from island to island. Speaking during a webinar entitled The Future of Tourism, What is Next?, Prime Minister Skerrit said uniformed protocols would allow tourists to easily and seamlessly hop from island to island with few issues.
We have explored the concept of joint marketing in the past in this region. This is something that we must move with haste to implement. Our islands, while so similar, offer their own unique experiences and the ability to offer a Caribbean package where one can be trekking through a rainforest and bathing in the pristine rivers one week and visiting a drive-in volcano the next week is long overdue, I must say. An island hopping experience can be facilitated by simplified immigration border protection requirements and a more uniform set of health entry protocols. This is not beyond our region to achieve. The EU was able to implement a version of it for the Schengen area, and it is time we introduce something similar for the region.
Prime Minister Mitchell said an ease in restrictions would help attract visitors who are eager to travel following extended periods of lockdowns and decreased commercial flights.
Notwithstanding the challenges, we continue to be optimistic that the tourism industry will rebound and will recover. expectations, therefore, in that regard, must be tempered by an unwavering commitment to give priority consideration to the safety of our people. Placing safety at the pinnacle of our efforts to restart tourism will serve as an attraction in and of itself. A country that demonstrates good COVID-19 management protocols, along with the easy and efficient entry protocols, will no doubt be included on the list of preferred destinations to visitors. In fact, Grenada has already been identified on a list of 6 countries that potential travelers should have on their radar to visit once they have been fully vaccinated.
And finally, at least 9 people, including 7 children, were killed on Tuesday after a lone teenage gunman opened fire at a school in Russia.
At least 7 school children and a teacher were killed on Tuesday and more wounded after a lone teenage gunman opened fire in a school in the Russian city of Kazan. 12 children and 4 adults were taken to hospital, the head of the Eastern Tatarstan region said, calling it a tragedy for the whole country. Rustam Minikhanov told State TV the gunman had been arrested. He was 19 and a registered gun owner. There was no evidence anyone else was involved. Footage posted on social media showed a police officer pinning a young man to the ground outside the school building. In another video filmed by an onlooker that was circulated by Russia's RIA news agency, 2 children could be seen leaping from the 3rd floor of the 4-story building to escape as gunshots rang out.
That's news. But for the very latest, visit us at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media in bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. And you can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM.